Hi everyone and welcome along to today's video. So I've had a couple of queries. Both of these are to do with overflows from the tank in the loft. Now one lady's saying to me that she's had this overflow running for some time and her husband had actually replaced the valve and it was in the small header tank. That is the F&E tank. It's a very small one about this big that sits next to the very large tank normally in the loft. And she said since he's done it we thought that would do it, but it's still running. So can you explain what is happening? I will do in a second. The second query sounds really mad now, was that a lady again had a leak of overflow running, and once again it was coming from the small expansion tank in the loft, and she had a plumber around to look at hers, and he said to her that unfortunately she will need a new hot water cylinder and it's going to cost about £500 or £600. Now she said to me, how can I need such a big expensive job like this when it's only the ball valve that's leaking? Well, as the valve wasn't leaking, it's not the valve, is it? So it's something else. And let me tell you what, a lot of times it is in most cases. I'll show you on this drawing here. Right, well, here we have one of my usual very dodgy drawings. Acme drawings. Okay, so what we got here is the roof tank here, the big one, and the small one alongside it, and it feeds down to the hot water tank and the valves and so on. What's happening? Well, in both these cases, I think what it is the inner coil in the hot water cylinder, that's this bit here, has sprung a leak in the coil. Usually it's somewhere near the bottom. It's probably only a pinhole or something very small, because most of you said the overflow just seems to drip all the time overnight. And this is why it's happening, is because if you go in your loft you'll probably find that the roof tank for the F&E system is sitting on the ceiling alongside the main roof tank. Now if you look, the roof tank is full up to here, way above the level of the F&E tank, which is on the ceiling also, and is a little water levels way down here. So what you can see is the pressure is going to be more there than there, and what's happening is this, right, the water pressure comes down through the cold feed into the cylinder and fills the water up in the cylinder. Now because the pressure is greater in there than the water from the F&E tank, which is lower, the water is entering the coil there and pushing through the coil and forcing water back up the cold feed. So if you imagine, there it is coming through there, our cold feed is going back up to that tank and filling the tank from the feed. So what is actually happening is the valve isn't leaking at all, but the actual tank is being filled by the pressure bearing down upon it. Hence the guy, the plumber that called, said you're going to need a new hot water cylinder to cure this problem. You can now see why. But I was also asked by the other lady, is there a cheap way out of this, because I can't afford £500 or £600 to have a cylinder replaced just to stop an overflow. And there is, but it kind of doesn't cure your problem, in the sense of you will still have the little hole in there, but it will stop the overflow. So let me show you when I turn the page. Dodgy drawing number 2. What have we done here? Okay, let's have a look at the tanks up in the loft. Now you can see there's our main tank, and what I've done is raised the F&E tank so it's now on blocks, and very importantly made sure that the water levels in each are the same, so they're now equal pressure. So now what happens is water coming down the cold feed now into our cylinder, still the leak's there, but because the pressures are now equalised, there's no longer water being pushed up the cold feed into the tank, because that is level, if you see what I mean. The pressures of weight are going to be the same. Important not to put this tank higher. Tempting, I know, put it up there, but because the reverse would start happening, and then your pressure would go down the cold feed and force out into the tank, which is not good, because in the end that will fill this tank up instead, full of mucky, gunky water. So not recommended. It's got to be the same water level. Now this doesn't cure your actual problem. You've still got a leak in the cylinder, in the inner coil, we call it. So eventually you will have to get that replaced, but if you were skint, at least it wouldn't be directly and straight away, and would get you over the problem for now. So it's a case of literally a bit of wood, raise the tank, and obviously a few plastic fittings and bits of pipe just to extend them up so that they now reached the new height that the tank is placed at. But this is just to get you out of jail card for a little while, as I say, and it will stop the overflow from running for now. But as I said, you will have to get this hot water tank changed eventually. We can't have that mixing really. It will kind of hold it static when the pressures are the same, but it's still there. You will still get a slight mixing in there, which is not a good thing, okay? But there we are. So it's just something I want to highlight when someone tells you they've got a valve leaking and they've renewed it and it's still going. What's the problem? There you are then, just a little quick one to clarify the subject there. And now sometimes you can get overflows from those old tanks when they pump over and you get clogging in the system, and you sometimes get the expansion belting over. Well, obviously a good way to check that is just to leave the heating on, go up there and see if anything is happening. If nothing's coming out of that vent, then it is definitely the inner core in my experience. So there we are, just a little information one really. All of you with combi boilers, sit back on your haunches there and just go, no worries. Don't worry, you got your worries of other sorts. Combi boilers are a pain in different ways. But there we are, each system has its hassles and has its good points and bad points. As I say, that fix is just a temporary thing. Do get the tank changed eventually, please. Okay, that's it though. All my stuff, you know where to go. Usual place, Darren 33. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.